Hello, my dear students. How are you doing? Good? Fantastic. My name is Profe Kyle, if you don't already know. Yes, I am your favorite English teacher because from what I know, I'm the only one that uses this methodology for Latinos. And in today's video of simple English, I'm going to be speaking in simple English, telling you a few stories. Actually, today I'm going to tell you a few Tinder stories because for me they're kind of funny and they should help you understand why some gringos don't like to use Tinder that much. And of course, I'm going to be creating subtitles for this video, so if you want a little bit of help, you can click on the subtitles here. I believe they will be in English and Spanish. Now, should I begin? Perfect. And remember, you don't learn English with grammar. Grammar is a great tool. You learn English with input. So input means listening to English and reading English. So this video is an example of comprehensible input. I'm gonna say that I will be using vocabulary that students at a B1 level, a pre-intermediate level, should understand. Now, I'm going to be talking about 3 dates I had on Tinder. So in 2015, that was the first year that I went to Latin America to live for a little bit. Not the first time going to Latin America, because before I'd been to Cuba, Dominican Republic, Venezuela, and to Mexico, but I had gone with family, or in the case of Mexico, with my ex-girlfriend. So I never really lived by myself in Latin America. And also at that time, a few years before, I had broken up with my ex-girlfriend. And I wasn't having a lot of luck with the ladies. And at that time, many gringos would go to Latin America to feel like men and to, meet some cute Latinas. So when I went to Latin America, that was my goal. And of course, one of the best ways then and one of the best ways now to do it, to meet girls easily, is through Tinder. Is it the best way? I won't say the best way, but it is probably the easiest way to meet girls. So the first city I went to during my travels in Latin America in 2015 was Guadalajara. I had been to Puerto Vallarta before, but that's a small city. The first big city I went to was Guadalajara. And in Guadalajara, I used Tinder to try to meet girls. So I was swiping right, swiping left, I can't remember, but I was swiping on Tinder looking for some cute Mexicanas, tapatillas to meet. And luckily, in Guadalajara, I was able to meet 2. The first one, and the first story that I'm going to tell you, was a young woman from Morelia in Michoacán. And if you don't know, in Guadalajara there's lots of young people from Morelia that study in Guadalajara. So my first date and my only date with this girl, we met up by my apartment in a big square, main square in Guadalajara. I can't remember what it's called, but it was behind a church. And in the middle of the square there was a fountain. I believe it was the weekend because there were a lot of people. During the week, like everywhere in Latin America, there aren't really people hanging out in the main squares. It's usually on the weekends when families and friends meet up at the main squares to hang out, drink beers, and talk about life. So I met up with her in the evening, and as soon as I met her, she immediately grabbed onto my arm and looked up at me with these cute puppy dog eyes. For me, it seemed a little bit soon to do that, but at the same time, at that time in my life, I didn't really have that much experience with women, and I was just happy that a cute woman was giving me attention. So we meet up. She immediately grabs my arm, looks up at me like I'm the most handsome man in the world, and I think I already knew that this young woman wanted to be with me, if you know what I mean, in my bed. I wasn't that bold to invite her back to my apartment immediately. I wanted to be careful, because of course in Latin America sometimes women can trick you. For example, in Colombia, if you go to a bar, a woman can flirt with you immediately and you think she's into you, when in reality she just wants to blow escopolamine in your face, take you back to your place and rob you. So you got to be careful. So with this girl, I took her to a tea shop. There was a nice tea shop in the area of Colonia Americana in Guadalajara. I do believe it still exists, and for me it was a very nice place to take a girl for a date. So I took her there. We talked, I don't know, for an hour, and yeah, the conversation was good. The entire time she was giggling and laughing at everything I said. And yeah, after, I felt bold enough to invite her back to my apartment. And she didn't have any objections. So I took her back to my apartment. We had some fun, if you know what I mean. That night, we slept. And in the morning, we had some more fun. Afterwards, probably like 8 in the morning, 7 in the morning. I believe it was Sunday, because normally in Latin America on Sunday mornings, there are no vehicles in the streets. It's incredibly quiet. And yeah, that's what I remember. I'm pretty sure it was Sunday. So I take her out of my apartment. I go to the corner. I call a taxi, or she called an Uber. I can't remember exactly. And I was actually really excited. Not gonna lie, she was great in bed. She had a nice personality, or at that time, that's what I thought. And I was hoping that we would talk soon. So she left on good terms. And I believe the next day or 2 days later, I sent her a message just to keep things warm and hopefully set up a second date with her and have more fun. But her response to my message was kind of cold. I think she responded once or twice and in very short sentences. It definitely felt like she was blowing me off. And I was young at the time, but at the same time I learned my lesson from when I was even younger than that I shouldn't get caught up in women. I didn't want to start chasing her because it didn't really seem like she was interested. I didn't want to waste my time with a woman who wasn't interested. But I think about 2 weeks later, on the weekend again, I wasn't on a date. I had no dates that weekend. I was walking up and down, I believe it's called Avenida Chapultepec in Guadalajara. And on the weekends they have like a market along the avenue. And it's really nice. And I remember walking, and all of a sudden I see a tallish man, probably about maybe even 60 years old, because he had really white hair. I didn't know if he was Mexican or gringo. And then I see this short, young Mexican walking with him. And I look a little bit closer and I realize it was the girl I had a date with 2 weeks before. And at that moment, I realized that I had went on a date with a nymphomaniac, a woman who enjoys sleeping with many different men. Now, for gringos, we have a term for Latinas that love sleeping with gringos. We call them gringo hunters, cazadoras de gringos. But this man, I couldn't tell if he was Mexican or gringo, so I'm not too sure if she was a gringo hunter or just a nymphomaniac. So that was my first story, and my first realization that on Twitter, you're not always getting the best women, the best quality women in the world. And that, of course, not only men, but even women use it just for quick sex. Now, maybe a month later or a few weeks later, I was on another date with another girl from, I believe she was from Guadalajara. Now, this girl was a dancer, which for men, if you don't know, men love women that can dance. Usually, they're in really good shape, and usually they know how to move their body. Now, being honest with you, I don't remember much of the details of this date. I probably did the same thing that I did with the other girl. We met up at the square and then we went to the tea house. Maybe, I don't really remember. I do believe it was a weekend again, but this time it was in the middle of the day. So I think, maybe, I'm not completely sure. It's been a long time. We went to the tea house. Then, like with the other girl, I took her to my apartment. Now this girl, she was short, she was skinny, and she had some curves, but again, not gonna lie, she didn't have the nicest face in the world. I think when I first met her and I saw the face, I kind of had this reaction, like, I don't know, what am I getting myself into? But her body, as we say in English, was tight. So I didn't really have a problem with taking her to the tea house and then taking her back to my place. And yeah, at my place, as you can guess, we had some fun. But again, maybe you think I'm an asshole. I don't really do this that much anymore. I don't really enjoy it. But at that time in my head, my main goal was to sleep with as many women as possible. So I slept with her, and I really didn't have plans on talking to her again, of hanging out with her more, because we didn't really have that much in common, and I wasn't incredibly attracted to her. So after she left, I never really contacted her again, but she wanted to contact me. But like a typical gringo does, and again, maybe it's asshole behavior, I responded to her messages, but I didn't really respond warmly to the messages. But of course, don't act like only men do this. Like I just told you, my first date with a nymphomaniac, she did the same thing to me. So women and men, they do the same thing. They do similar stuff. Now, this girl was persistent. I believe she kept on texting me, and I did keep on responding, but very coldly, trying to give her the message subliminally, that's a tough word to say in English, subliminally, that I really didn't want to spend more time with her. But she was persistent, like I said. So one day, I went to the gym. My gym was close, but it was about 10 blocks away, so I walked to downtown Guadalajara to my gym. And I was in the gym for probably about 1 hour, 2 hours. And when I came back, I opened my door. Now, the apartment building I was living in was kind of a typical apartment building in Mexico, where probably about 3 or 4 stories high, and like in all of Latin America, lots of security. So there was a big metal entrance with a lock that you needed a key to get into, and then you had to go up the stairs. There was the gated door, I don't know what it's called, but the security door, and then there was the regular door. So basically, I needed 3 different keys in order to get into my apartment, which, as a Canadian, a bit of a pain in the ass, but in Latin America, it's normal. I open up my door to my apartment, and I see that there is a note or a letter on the ground. Somebody had slipped the note under my door while I was in the gym. I pick it up, I open it, and it's a note from this girl that I had a Tinder date with. I can't remember what the note said, but it was something very, I think, romantic, very heartfelt, but as you would say in Spanish, a little bit intense. For me, we hadn't really spent enough time with each other for her to be acting this way. It kind of felt like something from a telenovela. So I read it, and in a way I'm a little bit freaked out because, as I just explained to you, this apartment building has the front door, and then, well, I have 2 security doors. But somehow, I'm guessing this is what happened. I never confirmed it. Of course, I never talked to this girl again because she kind of scared me. I'm guessing she waited outside the door. I think it was a Latin American apartment building, so probably had a buzzer. So she probably tried to buzz me and I didn't answer. And then somebody from the apartment building entered. I don't know what she said or what she did, but she must have entered with them, or the person let them enter. And she went up 3 floors, knocked on my door. She probably thought I was blowing her off. And yeah, I was blowing her off, but it wasn't like I was ignoring her visit at the apartment building. If I was there, I probably would have answered the door, but I wasn't. So she either at that moment pulled out a piece of paper and wrote me this love letter, whatever you want to call it. I don't remember what she wrote, and she left it under the door. And that was the second moment when I realized that on Tinder, you're not always going to get the best quality women, and some of the women are a little bit crazy. Now, of course, as a woman, if you're watching this, you can blame me for being an asshole, for being a fuckboy. And yeah, in a way, it's warranted. You can call me that. If you want, you can call me that in the comments. So that was my second strange, weird Tinder story. And the last Tinder story I want to tell you happened in Bogota. So after Guadalajara, I traveled a little bit through Mexico, and then I went to Colombia. And in Colombia, I stayed in Bogota for 1 month. And I was, again, on Tinder. I had a few gringo friends, and they were also using Tinder. And we were all swiping, trying to get dates with Colombians. And for me, yeah, I didn't really see, for me, Colombians are very beautiful, but I wasn't really getting interest from any beautiful women on Tinder. But because of the environment I was in with these 2 other gringos, I really wanted to get laid from Tinder. So I made a match with this one Colombian, and her photos, she looked pretty good. But I could notice that she was using high-angle photos. And if you're a woman and you don't know, but I think you do know, high-angle photos are usually a sign that the woman might have a few extra pounds. But I was kind of desperate to get laid, and because of the peer pressure from my friends, I wanted to show them that, hey, I'm gonna get laid from Tinder. So I made a match with this girl. I talked to her. Her photos looked a little bit suspicious, but her boobs looked really big. But again, her photos looked suspicious. She was using high-angle photos. So I had my fingers crossed that she wasn't catfishing. If you don't know what catfishing is a term that we use in Canada and the United States to refer to when a man or a woman lies about themselves with photos or with a description in order to get dates online. But again, I was crossing my fingers. She wasn't catfishing. She would be better than expected. So with this date, we set up a time. I was gonna pick her up at her place. I got myself an Uber, and yeah, I went to her place. And the Uber driver, he parked about a half block away from her house. And I took my cell phone, sent her a message, and I told her that I was waiting for her outside. And I got out of the vehicle so I could wave at her. It was a late night in Bogota. So obviously Bogota, late at night, kind of dangerous. I wanted to make sure she could see me. So she walks out of her house and I see her. And I realized she was catfishing. So she wasn't in great shape. I wouldn't say she's really fat. Not as fat as a gringa, for example, but she definitely had a few extra pounds. And yeah, she took the high angle photos in order to attract men. At that moment, I honestly thought about telling the Uber driver to drive. But I'm Canadian. So even if right now, after hearing these stories, you think I'm a huge asshole, I'm Canadian. And Canadians, we're really bad at being horrible people, being mean people. So maybe with somebody else from a different country, they might say, fuck this, I'm getting out of here, I'm not going on a date with this girl. In my case, I said, I made a promise, I promised to take her out, I'm gonna take her out. So I waved at her, she came, and again, I'm pretty good at pretending that I'm not disappointed. So you might think that she entered the vehicle and I was kind of like, and created an awkward situation, but no. I'm a professional English teacher. I know how to make conversation. So yeah, we talked the entire time. It wasn't really that awkward. I took her to a cafe that was right beside the place that I was staying at, my Airbnb, I believe I was staying in. I think we had something to eat, some cheesecake or something like that. And again, like with the first story I told you, I could kind of tell that this girl wanted some. And because of the peer pressure from my friends, they weren't there, but still there's this peer pressure. And I told myself, I'm gonna get laid. And I could kind of tell from this girl that there was a good chance that if I wanted to, I could get laid. So the angel on my shoulder told me to say, thank you for everything, I'll get you an Uber, I'll send you home. But the devil on my other shoulder told me, Kyle, go for it. And I was young, I was dumb, I was full of cum, so at that time I was listening more to the devil on my shoulder. So I invited her to a little terrace that was in the building I was staying at. There was a hammock, and we laid in the hammock and we looked at the stars. And after a few minutes, well, the fun stuff started happening. And a few minutes later, I took her to my room and we had fun. Was it the best decision in my life? No. And the morning after, we woke up, we got cleaned up. I think I got her an Uber, and maybe one of the most awkward farewells I've ever had on a date. She basically got in the Uber. I think I might have hugged her, but we really didn't say anything to each other the morning after. She just kind of left. I never contacted her. She never contacted me. And probably one of my biggest regrets when it comes to the opposite sex in my life was that date with the woman. I didn't really, obviously we had fun, but one thing, if there's a young man watching this, just because you have fun doesn't mean you're gonna feel better about yourself after. And I realized that just because you have sex, it doesn't mean that you're gonna feel like a man or you're gonna feel better about yourself after. In a way, I felt worse about myself after. And pretty much after that Tinder date in Bogota, I haven't really used Tinder that much. Every once in a while when I'm in Latin America, or I'll use it because I'll get these young women telling me that, oh, if you want to meet Latinas, the best way is with Tinder. And I try it, and it's just as horrible, just as terrifying as it was in 2015. And those are my 3 bad, horrible Tinder dates. So hopefully you found them entertaining. Hopefully you were able to make it to the very end. If you want to give yourself some extra English practice, well, I'm going to leave some questions down below in the comments. As well, you can also answer the question, have you ever had a bad Tinder date? Go ahead, Spanish, English, write your story below in the comments. I would love to hear it. And of course, if you think I'm a horrible man, I'm a sexist or something like that, yeah, go ahead. Tell me in the comments. I'm definitely not the same person I was in 2015. Thank you for watching. Like the video if you like the video, subscribe to the channel to get notifications when I release new videos, and click on the bell button to receive notifications when I release new videos. And I'll see you soon, my dear, dear student.